Alright guys, welcome back. This is going to be the second episode in Let's Write a Novel. I'm Evan Currie. Links down below if you, for some reason, missed the first part and don't know who I am. If that happens, seriously, YouTube's algorithm is being very mean to you. I'm not quite sure why you're here, but good for me, I guess. I doubt that's going to happen all that much. This is going to be the second episode in the series of Let's Write a Novel. Now, I'm going to start out with an update on what I'm doing. I currently have 3 novels on the go. One is basically all but finalized in terms of all the prep work. It's got its cover page, it's got its cover art done, the title is all locked in at The Infinity Affliction. Got another 30,000 words to write and it'll be done, then I'll get a quick edit and get it out to you guys. The other 2 are definitely earlier setups. We got one, Fraternal Orders. We're going to be talking about that quite a bit through this series, because I'll be using it as a regular example. And another one, working title, is called Heroic. That's set in the same universe as the Superhuman series, but it's not a Superhuman sequel or spin-off or anything like that. Not exactly, anyway. So it'll be going out on its own. I'll also be using that as an example quite a bit in here. For the moment, they're all in the range. Well, the other 2 are 10 to 15,000 words are in, and Infinity Affliction is pushing 50,000 words now. So it's getting well along there. I just wish I had a good solid ending, but I often don't figure that out until really close to the end. Let's hope the end comes quick. Yeah, I might want to reword that. That doesn't sound good considering the events in the world today. So, what are we talking about this time? This episode we're going to focus on characterization and world building. Now, these are 2 subjects that are intricately intertwined. And to be honest, we're going to be talking about world building a lot through this series, because world building will impact on pretty much every aspect of writing as you go through. But for right now, we're going to be dealing with your hero character. Okay, we're going to be talking about what sort of character, what defines a hero character. Okay, a lot of people have a lot of different definitions on this, and it's going to vary with your book, obviously. I tend to write military science fiction, so my hero character tends to be a military character. Not always, but it's a good rule of thumb. If you're writing military sci-fi, you're going to have a main character who is in the military or is at least connected somehow. In Superhuman, the lead guy was a retired Marine. In Odyssey 1, we've got a captain on a starship. In Silver Wings, we've got a sergeant, in the special forces in space. In space. Boy, that would be a really weird twist on Silver Wings. Yeah, never mind. Oh, that's not going to leave me alone for a while. If I were still writing fan fiction, I would totally write that. Okay. No, gone. Out of the way. So, if you're developing your character, you got a lot of options. Well, let's be clear. In fact, you have too many options. And that's a problem. This is a big problem that people have. Too many options. When I talk to people who are writing, that's often what brings them up on the first issue of writer's block. They don't know what to pick. So we're going to go back to my advice from last episode. Let's throw up some arbitrary rules. We don't need to keep to them later. They're just going to help us get things settled right now. In the case of Fraternal Orders, for example, I was trying to figure out what types of characters were going to fit best in the story that I was working on. And as we discussed before, I'd thrown up a few arbitrary rules to kind of define the setting. And as I was building characterization, I was like, okay, well, what type of military are we talking about? I don't want to go with the standard, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, whatever. because that's tying too close back to the original concept. Sorry, that's tying too close back to the real world. And while I wanted to keep lines back to the real world, I didn't want to, just mirror it in the future, because that would not suit the arbitrary rules that I'd set up when I was building that setting. So I decided that the characters that I were going to go with were going to be something with a bit more of a throwback. Plot a course into the future by looking to the past. And I decided that the characters were going to be, very much like the armored knights, the full knights, who are basically the king's men. In this case, the empress's men. And that was where, okay, this is the type of character. This is the type of organization the character belongs to. Great. Okay, now what? Well, just keep tossing arbitrary rules on things. Because lowering the amount of options you have makes the option you pick much easier to find. And most options are not realistic anyway. You have infinite options, but they're not going to suit the story. So by throwing these arbitrary rules that limit you, that cause you to look at things from a very specific angle, that's going to help you move along. In this case, the next one I decided on was, okay, he's going to be a trainee. Okay, maybe a graduate, maybe not quite. I wasn't sure at first. I decided finally that he was going to have just graduated as the novel starts. He's going to have an older mentor. And this is the kind of, and that's going to start affecting the plot, because a trainee is not going to be somebody who gets assigned to top secret missions and all that stuff. No, we're dealing with somebody who's going to get thrown in the soup, who really shouldn't be there. And suddenly that caused more ideas. It cleared away a lot of the garbage paths, and it clarified the paths forward that I wanted to use. So that's what you're going to have to do when it comes to characterization. And the neat thing about it is that as you do it, you're building your world. You're building more details into everything. And world building is what makes your readers want to live in that world. And that, I can't stress enough, that is a vital thing if you're writing a series. You can write a novel and not really worry too much about world building. One story, a novella, if you got good characters, good story, the world itself kind of fades into the background. But as you start developing into a series, that world comes front and center. That world becomes the main character, or one of the main characters. And that is a vital thing that you cannot ignore if you plan on writing more than one story in this particular world. The world has to have consistency. It has to have things that cause people to go, what? What does that mean? What does that do? How does that work? One of the best examples of modern world building in film has to be the John Wick movies. Mind you, I think they take it way... They cranked it up to 11 and then beat the knob off and turned it further when it comes to world building. But in the first John Wick movie, we're talking about a masterclass of world building, where they just present us with all sorts of elements that are fundamentally fascinating, and they don't answer a single question. You don't need to explain your world building. You don't need to explain why this character did that, or this thing was there, or anything like that. The fact that it's there will cause your readers to start thinking about it. That's world building. That said, it becomes something of a consistency issue that you do have to know why it's there yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to apply it properly going forward. And you can actually see that in the John Wick movies, where the first movie makes complete sense. And we're watching a very dangerous man suffer a nervous breakdown. Now, by the time you get to the third movie, as much as I love these movies, and I really did, they're great movies, but you start to wonder, it's like, is the entire freaking planet assassins? What the hell? That's where they cranked it up to 11. They just went to ludicrous speed, so to speak. which is fine. It fits well within that particular story. The world feels as broken as the main character is, and that's fine. It's going to lead to all kinds of speculation that the world is not actually real and John Wick is actually in an insane asylum or something like that. I am surprised I haven't seen that yet, because it makes perfect sense. But the world is fascinating on its own without having any of that answered. And that's what you're trying to achieve with people. You want people to be looking at it and thinking, I really want to know more about this place, this world, this universe. I want to know what the rules are, how they work, why are they different than what I'm used to. You know, ultimately, the goal is to have people finish reading your book, set it down and think, I want to live there. Especially if it's an absolutely horrifying universe. They still fantasize about living there. You know, you can see that in the movie Aliens, for example. An absolutely horrific universe, but there's not a single person who didn't watch it back in the day and want to be a frickin' colonial marine, because the world building was just absolutely perfect. Do that, and you will have readers forever. World building is an art within an art. And the masters of it, they're legends. Okay? I can't stress that enough. To me, world building is the highest art of writing. And I'm not pretending that I'm in any way spectacular at it. I like to think that I throw in a few good things every now and then. The truth is that most readers don't notice a lot of your world building because they sink into the story, and that's perfectly fine. The readers who do, though, they're the ones who will draw others in, because they will be the ones who rant and rave about how great things are. So, that's something that I want you guys to think about, particularly going into the next episode. If you are working on a project right now, if you've got a book on the go, or you're following along with me, if you're developing a project using the ideas that I'm throwing out here, I want to hear about it. Drop some notes down in the comments below. My newsletter, social media, whatever. I want to know what you're up to. If you're not writing something, but you just feel like asking questions about this, go right ahead. I'm going to answer everything I can. I'm having fun thinking this stuff up. I'm hoping you're having fun watching it. Now, as for the next part, I think we're going to examine ways to avoid writer's block and ways to break through it if you do run into it. Yeah, that's going to be fun, because I'll be up front. There's no perfect way to pull that off. But there are a few things that can help make it easier. So we'll talk through that too. In the meantime, glad you guys come in. If you do like this content, awesome. The only reason I'm going to say this is because we'll keep you up to date on the next videos. But if you want to be alerted, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell below, because otherwise YouTube will never remind you when I put something up. If you don't feel like it, then that's cool too. It doesn't really, that's entirely on whether or not you guys want to follow this. I am not becoming a YouTuber. Well, beyond the fact that I am literally becoming a YouTuber. Yeah. I'm a novelist. That's where I'm sticking. This is going to be just something that we're doing for the next little while. So I hope this has been useful to you. I really want to see your progress on your work. And yeah, until next time, let's write a novel.